So I'm here with John Gentry, and the first time I met you was last year in Georgia at the Nancy Schaefer event. Your speech was outstanding.
Thank you.
I've met so many outstanding people that have actually researched things. Don Rufty, I've talked with Don Rufty, Brian Kinter. Everybody talks about this whole thing with family court corruption, but there's a few people that have said, listen, we're going to go after this thing, and you're one of those people. You've gone much more in depth than many of us have been able to. So to me, you're one of the people that is one of the leaders, one of the heroes. I know there's many other people involved, but I want to thank you for everything that you've done. Thank you for putting me up last night. It was great to be here. One of the things that you've been focused on has been the corruption issue. Is that correct?
Yeah, and just to clarify, I don't look at myself as a leader in this movement. Mm-hmm. I've formed a front line against corruption, and I'm asking the people of this country to stand next to me.
Okay.
And it's only together are we going to start to heal this nation of the corruption that's going on today. And I know family court corruption, it's heavily prevalent that it happens in child custody cases and in family court cases. But the problem is much, much deeper.
But yes.
You know, that we have to address, you know, what is the underlying cause of corruption. And that's where I've focused my attention is how do we get to what caused these problems and how do we start to heal our nation.
Right.
As I went through this, I tried to hold bad actors accountable. And essentially, this is the heart of the problem, mm-hmm. is state officials, judges, law enforcement, they are all above the law today. Mm-hmm. And even at the lowest levels of law enforcement, because once you remove that immunity at the lower levels, then that exposes the higher levels. Mm-hmm. So you cannot find justice when your rights are violated by a state official, especially when it's a judge or an attorney. Mm-hmm. You cannot assert your right of due process. They can violate rights, ignore your right of due process, equal protection, and they very often perpetrate crimes. Well, violation of rights is a crime.
Is a crime, you're right.
Under 18 U.S.C. Section 241 and 242, any person that injures or oppresses your right is guilty of a crime and subject up to 1 year in prison or fine, or 10 years if it's done in conspiracy. So,
and there's even a provision that you can actually give the person the death penalty depending upon the results of what happened.
Not familiar. I don't want these guys. You know,
no. This is the very extreme case, but you're right. I mean,
I just want them. I want these bad actors off the bench,
right,
and removed from power. You know, I don't care about trying them for their crimes.
Yeah,
but. As I tried to hold these bad actors accountable, I sued them in federal court under 42 U.S.C. 1983 and several RICO statutes, 18 U.S.C. 1961 through 64, sued under 1962, and even Section 1346. And this is, you know, we hear very often, you know, about this corruption and let's put new laws in place. Laws are already there.
Yes.
We don't need laws.
Yeah.
And this takes us to the underlying problem is the legal profession and the judiciary are in my opinion, they're the heart of the problem mm-hmm. that we need to correct. So as I took these guys through, I went all the way through to the United States Supreme Court. And these are booklets that you have to prepare when you file in the Supreme Court of the United States.
Okay. I didn't know that you had to actually put them in booklet form.
Now this booklet is absolutely ridiculous on its face. The paper has to be 65 pound for the cover, and then at least 60 pound paper. This is cardstock paper that you have to print it on, and then you have to cut it down. And off the top of my head, I think it's 9 1/4 by 6 1/8 inches. And they measure these things. It has to be precise. And then the rules that they state in the Supreme Court rules
margins
are very confusing, and they say, you know, that the margin has to be a certain height at the top and the bottom, the left and the right. But it's very tricky. It's very tricky lawyer language that they put in there to deny access to that court. But I followed the rules, and I got docketed in both cases in the Supreme Court of the United States. But no person should ever have to do this.
Right.
You know,
yeah.
These can be filed electronically.
Yeah.
This is a conspiracy, I believe, of our highest court to deny access to the court. These booklets are absolutely stupid and ridiculous. And it is a shame that our legal profession has sunk to such depths that they try to deny access to the courts. So this is fundamentally where we need to attack corruption is restoring justice back to our courts. And I believe that the proper method to do that is through remonstrance. Now, as I've gone through this process, and everybody out there that has attacked corruption, we call the FBI.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And the FBI website, it says that public official corruption is the premier investigative priority for the FBI. They don't investigate.
I was going to say, have they ever invested? I'm sure that they do somewhere.
They
right?
won't.
Yeah.
And you call the media, and you want to talk to the media about corrupt officials, and they won't tell the story. There's a gentleman here in Tennessee. There's a gentleman here in Tennessee who brought an ad about corruption and judicial reform, and the media told him you can't use words like judicial corruption. You can't do that, and you can't name names of people in there. Now, that's unconstitutional because the Tennessee Constitution says it is an invaluable right of every citizen to speak or write freely, and if it's about a public official, it shall be evidence. But they will not tell the story. If you take them through the federal court system, as I did, judges will not hold judges to the law. They hold these other judges above the law. It's ridiculous.
It almost seems like it's a cabal or something like that. Like, I'm going to protect your back, you protect my back. I was shocked about this too. And you have much more experience with this, I know, than I do. But I talked with a friend of mine who was a judge, and basically he said, well, Jeff, I don't want to hear about it because I work with these guys. And I'm like, so you're protecting them? I mean, that's really what it comes down to.
It's exactly what it is. And again, as I mentioned earlier, they have to, whatever it is, they have to protect them.
Yeah.
Because once you remove that immunity, then that exposes everybody above.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't matter what it's about, who the judge is, how low, how new, it doesn't matter. They're above the law.
Yeah.
So how do we begin to address that problem? And I think it's through petition of remonstrance. Media won't work, law enforcement won't work, we can't hold them accountable in the federal government. We call our legislators and they refer us to, like, the Tennessee Board of Judicial Conduct. Every state has a judicial oversight agency. I'm a certified public accountant.
Right.
I proved using their own reports that they dismiss 100% of complaints filed by non-legal professionals.
Yeah.
When there's infighting, that's the only time that they'll take any action.
Yeah.
When it's one judge against another judge or a court worker or somebody who has some leverage with that agency, that's the only time they'll do anything. So,
can I just interrupt?
Yeah.
Because, I saw when you produced that study and you sent me the study. So I went through Texas. I'm in Texas because I filed a complaint against one of the judges down there. Am I allowed to mention his name?
Absolutely.
Okay. His name is Justice of the Peace Jack James, but my favorite term for him is Injustice of the Peace Jack James, Precinct 1, Rockwall, Texas. Hi, Injustice Jack James. If you look up his name on on Google, one of my videos with him come up as well. So, I mean, he's... But, the thing is that I went into his courtroom, and all I wanted to do, it was a small claims court of all things. So this is not a big deal, right? It's a small claims court, and I just wanted to have him at least hear my case. I went into his courtroom, and basically I was told at the very beginning, I'm not going to listen to any evidence. So he's not going to accept any evidence. It's going to rule about dismissal of my claim. Wait a minute, how can you dismiss a claim that you haven't even heard? I had my court transcripts with me. I had letters and everything else. Wouldn't look at a thing. Oh, I think maybe he looked at one page or something like that. And I said, Your Honor, well, first off, he's talking to the defendant. And it's like softball questions. Can you hit this softball for me? I'm going to just toss you real easy. This
is the problem, is they won't listen to evidence.
And then they turned around, and to make it worse, he was acting like I was the enemy. I mean, all of a sudden, instead of being a judge, he looks like he's more of a prosecuting attorney. About 30 minutes, he's hitting me with questions. And I'm standing my ground, but I'm thinking to myself, this is not good what he's doing to me. He's going to dismiss my case. But I kept on fighting back. And then at the end, he says, I've beaten you up enough. I didn't know that was your job, to beat me up. I've beaten you up enough. Then he turns back to the defendant and he asks a couple of more things. You're claiming I have no jurisdiction. Well, he had jurisdiction. His court clerk knew that he had jurisdiction. In fact, she was the one that told me, file the claim here. Your Honor, you don't have jurisdiction. Well, do you have a statute for that? No, Your Honor, I don't. Okay, that's good enough. And then he went back into his office and he says, I'm going to research this over the weekend, and he's going to come to his decision on Monday. He went right back into this office, and I saw later on the date. He went right back into his office and he sent out a dismissal with prejudice that very same day, did not do what he said, lied to me in the courtroom. And then he said, after having examined the evidence, after he said, we're not going to look at evidence.
Yeah.
I mean, this is crazy. I said, Your Honor, I can give you the court transcript. I'm not going to waste my weekend looking at a court transcript. I said, Your Honor, I can give you 18 pages, pages 23 through 41. Every question he threw at me, there was a legitimate answer to. But complete deprivation of rights.
It's common practice that cases are already decided before you walk in the courtroom.
Yeah.
And you have no opportunity to present your case, or you're not provided due process.
But if you go to an oversight committee, this is where I was going to go with this. I got a little bit off track there, but I said, somebody said, hey, you can file this with the State Commission on Judicial Conduct, which I did. 9-month process, and they're useless.
And let me guess, sufficient facts, we're not available, we're not here to review the rulings, you have to go to the Court of Appeals.
Well, yeah.
That's pretty much what they do.
In addition, I called up the guy and said, well, we don't have any subject matter jurisdiction. What? You're talking about judicial conduct. We can't determine the merits of your case. I'm not talking about the merits of my case. I'm talking about judicial conduct.
Yeah.
Or misconduct. Well, we can't do this. So then they let me file a second time. So I filed again and they said, we've already heard all of this stuff and that's it. I thought, what a sham commission. And then I read what you wrote. And then I went back through the reports, and it's the exact same thing. I can confirm what you're saying. The dismissal rate.
And this gets back to the heart of the problem, is how these guys are protecting each other. Mm-hmm. And I know we're gonna do another segment,
right,
and talk about how this corruption is going on, and I hope you guys will watch that further segment about how these guys protect each other and how they deceive us into thinking that we have to go to the judiciary to find justice when our rights are being violated by the judiciary. and it's trickery. It really is. It's trickery. So I hope you guys will pay attention to that, and we're going to sit here and discuss and talk about how these guys have deceived the American public to grant themselves absolute immunity and to be able to hold themselves above the law.
Okay, that sounds great.